Hey, I'm John Gordon with Positive University, and I'm here with Lane Kiffin. Lane, I've been thinking about this question for our interview, and I just wanted to start with this and ask you, why did you start coaching? What made you want to be a coach from the early stages?
Well, it really, John, was all that I kind of knew growing up. You know, I was always around with my father, and I was a ball boy, and I was sitting in meetings, you know, when I was 10, 12 years old. And I was just always intrigued as I got a little older by watching the games and seeing that someone not playing in the game could have such an impact on the game of winning and losing based off of decision making, based off of game planning and game management.
So you played football. Did you enjoy playing more, or do you enjoy coaching more?
I did enjoy playing a lot. I think that it's one of those things that, you know, everybody's playing career comes to an end, and mine didn't go very far. You know, didn't go to the NFL, got to college on scholarship and kind of stopped there. So, you know, you and I have discussed before, it's the classic obstacles the way where we all want to play in the NFL, you know, and so, you know, by not doing that, I started my coaching career sooner than most people do because they usually bounce around and, you know, tryouts, maybe go play in the CFL and do all those things. So what I thought at the time was, you know, man, I wish I was playing more in college and going to the NFL was really, you know, a great blessing because I started doing something and you never know. And I joke nowadays with all the concussion things and everything from players that played, it was a good thing that I was a bad player because I have no concussion problems.
That's awesome. So you and I met because you tweeted at me and you said, hey, come to the FAU. And so I said, you know, I'm gonna go down and meet this guy. I've always wanted to see what you're about. I was really curious to see what you were like. And I have to tell you, when I showed up, I didn't think I was going to like you. That's the truth. But I liked you a lot. I thought you were going to be someone who was all about yourself. And what I realized was you were actually someone who was really about your players. And it was amazing. It blew me away to see you as that kind of person. Have you changed? Did something about you change over the years, or were you always like that as a coach?
I think both of those things. I think, you know, maybe that perception that's out there, as you mentioned, of people that haven't been around to see how we run a program or how interact with people within the organization. I think there's, for whatever reason, a perception that's different than reality. And I think over time, I've changed some too, you know, with experience, with age and maturity that, you know, I handle different things. I look at things different now than I did, you know, 10, 15 years ago.
How have you changed?
I think it's one of those things that maybe majority of people do this. As you get older, you look at things different. And I think for me, the biggest thing was, I guess, you know, to say it was kind of getting out of myself. You know, when you get so much so early, whether that's money, power, job status, you know, at such an early age, you know, that's difficult for people to, we deal with players, you know, they get their money going to the NFL all the time. Well, there's the same thing with coaches, you know, at an early age. And so we've discussed before, you know, the ego that gets involved in that and how that can definitely be an enemy, you know, when you're not prepared properly to handle those situations. And so I think that's where it's changed. You look at things different and you have different motivations really of why you do things. I think early on it was, okay, you're doing things and you are helping the players because you're making them better players. You're getting them drafted higher in the NFL. You're running, you know, you're doing all these things that do help them in those areas, but really wasn't doing anything for them off the field. You know, it was, hey, come here, we'll get you paid more in 4 years from now. The NFL drafted anywhere else you go because, you know, we think we're pretty good at training you for the draft, and all our systems were pro-style systems. Versus, okay, what are we really doing for the person and developing them and how to handle situations and grow into being better men. So that's definitely where there's been a change. And I think the biggest thing was, you know, getting out of yourself, realize it's not about you, you know, and that this is the purpose of your job. And so you can get all that power, you can get all that money, that doesn't create happiness. You know, I know it sounds a little bit corny, not to you, but a lot of people maybe listening that, you know, you get a lot more from helping others or something. You know, there was a thing yesterday that happened that we did something for a former coach and stuff, and someone said, "Wow, that was amazing how much time you took out to do that for the person." And I said, "One day you'll realize the people that are doing things for people, I always feel like those are the happiest people when you look at them. It's not like it's that hard to do, and it's not like it's a chore. It's actually, you're not doing it for that reason. It becomes rewarding."
You were the youngest coach in the NFL. You had all the success early on, a lot of success at USC. What was that like? Was your ego in the way? How did it feel at that point? Were you happy?
Well, it definitely, your ego gets in the way. You know, what's good is bad and what's bad is good. You know, and it's good to have success and be around, you know, we had 3 Heisman winners in 4 years at USC and break all these records, and then, you know, get to be the youngest head coach in the NFL. All that stuff is good and bad. It's good, you know, and you get these big contracts and all these things, but then it's bad if you're not really totally prepared to handle that and not let your ego get in the way and just stay the exact same way you were that was getting you to that point. And so it definitely got in the way, just by, you know, starting to think that you know more than you know. And people say, "Well, what do you know now that you didn't know 10, 15 years ago?" And I say everything. I say, when I look back to being 25, 30 years old, and I think, I'm going to sound old now. I think old people say this. I really didn't know anything. I thought I knew everything. I didn't know anything now that I look at it. I mean, you know, if there's 10 situations how you'd handle them today versus then, 9 out of 10 would be different. So I think that's one of those blessings too, that it happened at an early age versus some people start getting that at a later age, and maybe they're still not ready to handle it, but then they look back, okay, well, now it's happening to me and I'm, you know, 40, 50 years old. Now what do I do? You know, I got to screw up young, you know, and learn from that young. So I look at it, you know, it's a typical obstacle is definitely the way.
Yep. Yeah, when you say obstacle is the way, a great book by Ryan Holiday, our mutual friend, and he also wrote Ego is the Enemy. How have those books influenced you?
Huge. I mean, both those books, Obstacles Way has helped me get over some things, some traumatic things in my life, to realize, okay, they happen for a reason if you learn from them. And Ego the Enemy, as I've told him and probably mentioned to you, that book could have been written about me. I could be starring. If he wants to do a movie, I'll star in it for him. because it was, you know, as I look back, I just allowed all that stuff, you know, your ego. And when everyone's telling you every day, "Oh man, that's so great, you guys won all these games and you guys score all these points and do all these things, you're the youngest this and all that," you know, you've got to have the rest of your life nailed in order to be able to deal with that stuff at a young age. That's why we see so many people fail with it in all different, whether it's music, whether it's professional athletes. We see it happen all the time.
I asked you earlier if you were happy during that time when your ego was getting in the way. Were you happy? Can you honestly say that you were happy?
I was in certain aspects of my life. It wasn't like I was sitting there miserable going, "Man, I don't have anything. I got all this money. There's empty feeling." It wasn't necessarily that. There were some times where I thought, okay, if I have all these things, why am I not completely happy in all aspects? You know, why am I still craving? So why does it feel like there's something missing? You know, we win this championship and, you know, you're sitting there an hour afterwards and you're still kind of feeling like something's missing. I would describe it more as that. As I think, as you would say, I was neutral.
Right. And so a big part of Ego is the Enemy, and the opposite of that is humility. And so when did you feel the most humble? Did working for Saban humble you? Did going to FAU humble you? When would you say that you actually really started to feel more humbled in your life? Because that's the Lane Kiffin I met, was a humble Lane Kiffin when I met you.
Yeah, and I think, you know, humbled can be looked at a lot of different ways, you know, and I think a lot of people think humbled as, you know, it can be a negative thing. You know, I'm not thinking of that aspect. I think of it more as you just kind of, you awake, you realize things differently, you look at things differently, you know. So like, in a way of a different version of kind of a working version of Born Again. And so I know we're going to wear this book out here with Obstacles Away, but going to Alabama getting fired from USC was a perfect example of you. At that time, you think the world's over. How could we get fired? Everything goes, 28-15, and we were on sanctions, and bring all these things up, saying that gosh, will I ever be a head coach again? All these things, and now you look back and say, wow, what a great thing. You're going to laugh, but I thanked the athletic director at USC just this last year for firing me, because I said that helped me. Being humbled helped me I would have never went to Alabama. I spent 3 years with Nick Saban and learned all of that and been around him.
What did you learn from Saban?
I mean, we'd be here all day on that. I think the number one thing was he's just so organized and so detailed and every little thing, and I think sometimes especially when you're younger, you can kind of overlook things within your team or organization because, you're just focused on the big things, but that's okay. We can overcome those things. And, he leaves nothing undone throughout the entire organization. He's going to make sure that he covers all of it. And so that's been really, really helpful for me. And I think that it allows you coach your employees more in that style, versus, and I actually just had a conversation today about this. Sometimes when you get these big jobs and you're able to hire a lot of the coaches we were hiring, were veteran coaches, and they were older than me. They'd been doing this for years. So you don't have to coach them about how to manage their room. You don't have to coach them how to manage a situation with a player, how to play their players and stuff. And so, I think that's been a big part of not assuming anything and coaching these guys every day on all the different areas of how to handle things.
Why do you coach now?
I get my enjoyment from coaching now out of the players and coaches too, seeing them get better, wanting them to get bigger jobs, but really seeing the players. And I think that was part of God's plan of bringing me here to FAU, a smaller place and I'd ever been at, a place that majority of our kids aren't going to the NFL. And none of them had won. The seniors only won 3 games a year. So you have a whole team that you see you're able to help do something that they've never done before. And this was it for a lot of them. This was their last year. They got to win a championship, win 11 games, and win a bowl game and all those things. And that was what I used to hear coaches say all the time. Oh, you do it for the players and all that. And I was like, no, they really don't. They just say that. They're doing it for themselves. But going through this experience, you really got to see, okay, that's really what it's about.
You and I have talked a lot about faith. How has faith impacted your life?
A lot. I think that is a lot of that doing about getting out of yourself too. That there is a reason it does. And I think that was that empty spot where you say, were you happy? Well, I wasn't miserable. There was just something missing, there seems like there should be something bigger than just this everyday life. And I know that was it now, is that finding that there is a bigger reason, and it's not about me. It's about what you're here on earth for. And he has you here, and his plan is for you to help people and to help people get better. And that just has really had a whole different feeling, as I walk around. I just feel different on a daily basis than I used to.
How have you improved as a leader? Because you've improved tremendously.
A lot of the same things, but again, slowing down, not getting frustrated as much with people. Going, okay. And I used to get frustrated with coaches a lot. And I had one of our sports psychologists told me that dealt with our players all the time. He said, remember, what are coaches? They're former players. So when you have players that you get frustrated, do you just get frustrated? No, you keep coaching them. You find a different technique, a different way to teach them. So I've applied that now, and that's really helped me just slow down with guys and see things differently. Everybody has things they're good at, instead of focusing, okay, this guy can't do this. This guy screws this up. Well, wait, hey, he may be better at this part of something than I am, so let's use him in that area to help our team.
So what, when you think about yourself as a coach, as a person, as a dad, how do you put it all in perspective? How do you bring it all together and do it all? Because it's a lot.
I think you just really keep grinding at it. That's what I've kind of figured out too. Like the rest of life is really like a grind, like work at times. Like, hey, you got to keep pushing on. You got to keep pounding the rock. You got to keep, what are the small wins each day? And I think I was doing that for the most part all the time at work, but I wasn't doing that at home in my marriage. I wasn't doing that at home necessarily with my kids, because at work, man, I got to do this. I got to find a way to win. I got to find a way to get this game plan done. And I think I mentioned to you before, if you would, if coaches or any leaders of companies, if they would do what they do at work at home with their spouse, with their kids, it would be a totally different household and different marriage, because you wouldn't sit around and say, okay, well, this isn't working, or this kid acts a certain way. You'd find a way to fix it. And I think that's one of those things that a lot of us probably struggle to do, because we were so focused on football, and I'm saying especially as a head coach and all that goes into that was part of the balance issue, earlier.
So many people talk about your next job. Where's Lane Kiffin going to go next? How do you stay focused on the present right where you are?
I've thought a lot about that. That probably was one of the best answers. You say, okay, how have you changed? Because like most coaches, like really, like a lot of coaches, period, regardless of age, even old ones, they're going, okay, I'm here. What's the next one? Which ones are coming open? Boy, where did I go there? And I've changed that mindset. I don't think about that now, because it's all about where you're at right now, and and that doesn't matter. But you don't understand that when you're younger. I say, okay, what's the biggest job, the most money, and the fastest that I can get it? And I remember being in Oakland, and I wrote up in the corner of the board in my office, as a head coach of the Raiders, I wrote 99, and my buddy came and said, what was that? He goes, I don't know, I just wrote 99 million. I want to see how fast I can get to 99 million. And I thought, how stupid is that? I said, well, what is that going to do? And so I've just changed completely on this thing, and money's a big part of that too. I think I've joked with you before, if money's the root of all evil, then why are we chasing it so much? So I've realized that doesn't, and people don't buy this when I say it, because they say, oh no, but I really don't think a lot of money makes people happy.
And do you care about money?
Pardon?
Do you care about making more money in the job, in terms of, is that your driving force as you go forward?
I don't. I think once you get to the point where you know that you can take care of your kids, if anything happened that, there was whatever happened that you had to take care of, you have enough money to do that. What's really the difference of you going and having 5-10 times of that? Because what's really going to change in your life? If you're able to do all you really want to do, above and beyond that, that's not going to change anything, and probably going to cause more problems, because I've seen that all around, for years now.
Yeah. I mean, you see like your past, right? Coach of the Raiders, USC coach. I mean, you already have had it all. You've seen what that looks like, right? And then what you're doing now, where you are, and you see what that feels like and the impact you're having on these football players now. So it's really again, it's almost like God gave you these two lives to see, and then you can see what makes you happy and where you can invest, right? Invest in the root or the fruit. Which one are you investing in? And is this something you think that's happening to you so you can help others and point others towards the way?
For sure. It totally allows me to help young coaches just this week going through a situation where I can see something getting ready to start that I screwed up, that they're getting ready to screw up, and say, you know what? Let me talk to you about this. Hey, that's not what you want to do. It may seem like it right now, but it's not. Trust me. So And back to the last point, it continues to hit me when, and I've said this before, and it's going to sound strange. A lot of times we go to recruit and I go to do home visits, and I see these families that have nothing. I mean, nothing. 8, 10 people in a 2-bedroom house. I mean, just poverty. And I have seen more happy people in those situations, more happy families, more happy more happy marriages than I have being on streets with a house that's not under $5 million. And I'm not saying bad about anybody. I'm just saying I've seen a lot more happy people with nothing around, because I think there's a lot to that. Because what do? They focus on themselves. They focus on their families, and people get all this other stuff. And then what do? I got to buy all these things. I got to put my kids in a million activities. And then all of a sudden, well, where's the family structure gone? And where, and they don't really even see happy. And and half the time they're chasing I need to get something because, well, now they got a better car than me. They got a bigger house than me. And so I know it probably sounds crazy to people, but there was a way to take a percentage averages. I've seen a lot more happy marriages, a lot more happy families, and kids respecting their parents with basically nothing financially around them versus all this other stuff that everyone's chasing.
When a lot of young coaches reach out, what's their most common question that they ask you?
Young coaches don't really think to ask the questions about, okay, what do you change? What are that? They don't think like that. They're more apt to, how do I get into the profession, or, how do I move up the ladder? So the things I've gone through and learned from, they're not really asking for that help. They're still in the ego chase mode.
What would you say to people who are still defining you by your past? What would you say to them?
That doesn't worry me, and maybe it should. It just never has. I've always said, I care about what the people that work with us, around the building, what the players, former players, what they say, what they think. Our local media that's here every day, that covers us every day, not fan bases that have never met me, or media that from some part of the country, because you can't. You'll beat yourself up. And I used to read all the articles that would come out and stuff, and say, oh man, this guy wrote this, and so this looks bad. In the next press conference, I'm going to say this that covers that, so that, and then you just realize it don't matter. It really doesn't. You can't worry about the judgment of others, that don't know you, or you'll just end up wasting a lot of time.
So what are you excited about going forward?
Just continuing to improve, to grow, to get better on this path. Like a coach that was going through something, I said, hey, you're better than you were last month. I know that. You're doing better than you were a month ago, even though you feel like you're still in a bad place. Just continuing to, grind. Like I said, the same work ethic you've always had and grinding at your job, put that into the rest of your life.
If Knox decides to be a coach, would you support that, your son Knox?
I actually just thought about it this weekend, because we were watching some games, watching an LSU game. He was rooting for Coach Ogeron, and he started saying he didn't like this other game we flipped to. I won't say which game. The coach wasn't using his timeouts very well. He didn't like that. So I kind of started thinking about that, and I would have always thought the answer would be yes. Like I would push him that way, push him to play football, push him to coach. And again, one of those things is you change as you get older. You really don't care. I don't. You see, again, you go around, you see so many unhappy people with all kinds of success that, I want him, just like my 2 daughters, I want them to do something they're excited about, that they want to go to work every day, because that's foreign nowadays. There's so many people that dislike their job.
So last question, put these in order. God, football, family. What order would you put them in?
God, family, and football. And that would be direct opposite if you would have asked me that 10 years ago.
And what would you have said 10 years ago?
Exact opposite. I would have said football, and then it would have been family right below that, and it would have been like God way down here. Because I was just singularly focused.
Awesome. Well, Lane Kiffin, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate you sharing with us, and I know people are going to be blessed by this interview, benefit from it. Is there anything you want to say to them before we go?
No, I just appreciate you guys listening. You got the best coach in the world, and Coach Gordon there. He's my coach as well. So when I'm not doing well, I call my coach. And the best thing about him is he doesn't – I think you say it's not rosy-colored glasses or whatever you say, you know. Be positive. You know, he's going to tell me exactly how it is. So that's what I really appreciate about him.
Appreciate it. Love and accountability, right?
Yes, sir.